ओमज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकाय चक्षुरुन्मिलितमेन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टां स्थापितमेन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्य देवं श्रीराधा कृष्ण पादान् सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। नमो नमो अनिरुद्धाय हृषिकेशेन्द्रियात्मने नमः परमहंसाय पूर्णाय निवृत्तात्मने स्वर्गपवर्गद्वाराय नित्यं सुचीसते नमः। नमः हिरण्यवीर्याय चातुर्होत्राय तान्तवे। So, the first thing is that this would be the first session technically of the Jaiva Dharma, which is authored by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He is also called the seventh Goswami. We have six Goswamis who are predominant disciples of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because of his monumental work, because of his contribution, is addressed as the seventh Goswami. Practically, you can say someone who has established the Sampradaya in terms of the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, one of the preeminent personalities who has established it. Now, what we would want to do is have this understanding of the context, or I would say the setting in which this took place. So we're going to start there first. So in the very first chapter, there is a description of a sannyasi. And this sannyasi is an Advaitin. So Advaita Siddhi is the specific topic or philosophy which is propounded by Sri Shankaracharya. So this is a sannyasi who has taken Diksha, who has come in the lineage of Sri Shankaracharya. And when he sits in Varanasi, in Kashi, they have their own vidhi of Jnana Marga, they have their own sadhana of doing things. While he is sitting deep in meditation in Varanasi, a great personality passes by on the street doing Harinam. It's a Vaishnav. And he has kartals and he is singing the names of the Lord. He's doing Harinam. And as he is doing Harinam, the sannyasi is able to observe ecstatic transformations that are occurring on the body, on the self of that particular Vaishnav. He is dancing. He could see that hairs are standing on end. He could see that he's in an extraordinary state of bliss. This is unprecedented because the sannyasis in the lineage of Sri Shankaracharya who are Advaita Siddhis or trying to attain the perfection given by Sri Shankaracharya's philosophy, they don't display these emotions, they don't display these sentiments. They're not supposed to. In one sense, they're supposed to be very strict in their behavior, external behavior. So he was quite astonished. But what was very astonishing to him was hearing the voice and the dance and the very sight of that Vaishnav. It caused a deep transformation in his own heart. There began a set of transformations which started occurring in his heart. He felt very unsettled about his position, even though he was a sadhaka, he was a sannyasi. For many, many years, he started feeling very disturbed and he became very unsettled because there was a strange sense of very deep happiness which he experienced just by seeing the sight of that, the devotee dancing. And he could not understand what it was which transformed him. He could not philosophically put in place what transformations had occurred and why it had occurred, because in his philosophy, that is supposed to be Maya. Anything that occurs in this particular world is supposed to be Maya. So he wasn't really able to place the feelings and the emotions and transformations that were occurring in him just by the passing of this sannyasi. The sannyasi was just passing by. The Vaishnava was passing by. He was doing some kirtan. He had a kartal on his hand. And this caused all these transformations in the sannyasi who was sitting there. The Mayavad philosophy is quite hard-hearted in the literal sense. There are many misconceptions. As a consequence, they even deny the existence of the form of the Lord. They deny the deity form of the Lord as Maya. For them, the ultimate realization of Advaita Siddhi. Siddhi means perfection. Any kind of Siddhi is a perfection. Literal translation is perfection. So Advaita Siddhi, the ultimate goal of Advaita Siddhi is ultimately to realize the Supreme Brahman who is formless and to have this understanding that they are non-different from that. So there's a lot of steps which are missing there. In one sense, they do come and coincide with our philosophy of the Supreme Brahman. But beyond that, there's a lot of confusion in terms of how to attain him and what happens post-attaining. And the fact that the Supreme Brahman or the Brahma Jyoti is the ultimate destination, that is where the philosophy gets a little bit diverted. Now, Sri Shankaracharya's philosophy was accepted and it was received, and then the person basically took up sannyas. But even though he had taken up sannyas in that direction, and he was quite an accomplished sannyasi, because he says that I became a Paramahamsa. They have their own stages, and in those stages, he had attained the highest stage, which is called the Paramahamsa. And then he was quite disturbed that this singing of this Vaishnava had caused all those tremors in him, because he wasn't able to place any intellectual aspect to it. They are intellectuals primarily. You see, they're intellectuals, and their goal is moksha, liberation. Our goal is beyond moksha. See, Namabas, which is offenseless chanting, grants us moksha. We are liberated at this stage. So our goal is beyond. Now, this particular transformation in his heart causes him to seek answers. So he tries to search for that Vaishnava. And because of a lack of, I would say, being bound by formality, he didn't really go chasing after him when those transformations were occurring. On a later extent, he wanted to go chase after him to find out, why am I feeling the way I'm feeling? Why am I disturbed after hearing Harinam from you? What is it which has happened to you? What is the philosophy that you follow which is so transformative that I feel this way? So he couldn't do this. So he goes after that particular Vaishnava later, and in searching around, he hears about Srila Rupa Goswami, he hears about Sanatan Goswami, he hears about Srila Jaiva, he hears about Vrindavan Mahaprabhu's philosophy, and then he hears about the glories of Navadvip Dham. He reaches Navadvip Dham, and then he reaches Navadvip Dham and he reaches a spot where there is a Babaji Maharaj. Right? A Babaji is also a renounced order, but it is a renounced order which does not fall into the category of Varnashram. So you have four ashrams. So you have Brahmacharya, Grahastha, Vanaprasth, Sannyasi. The Babaji order is beyond all of this. So in one sense, it is considered to be superior. It is considered to be superior. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he was Babaji. Gaur Kishore Das, Babaji. So their own principles are based more on Vaishnava Dharma. It's more principled on in terms of renouncing for the purpose of serving Krishna eternally. It's a completely different order. So, but it is a renounced order like sannyasi, but superior to sannyasi because it is superior to the Varnashram. That is the definition given in Shastra in one sense. Now, this sannyasi, the Advaitin, he approaches this Babaji, and this Babaji is sitting under a tree and he is chanting Harinam. And when he is chanting Harinam, he transforms himself and goes to the spiritual sky. He is in Prema. He is experiencing Prema. He is not showing it, but he is experiencing Prema. While in Prema, while he is sitting on the planet, while he is in this body, he is already engaging in the pastimes of the divine couple. So the sannyasi is literally seeing him, and this Vaishnava, this Babaji Maharaj, is completely oblivious of the presence of the sannyasi. So he's continuing to chant, but then he says, basically, he makes a few statements. So this Babaji's name is Premadas Paramahamsa Babaji. He is a Siksha disciple of Pradyumna Brahmachari. Sri Pradyumna Brahmachari is a Parshad. He is a Nitya Parshad. He is a direct associate of Lord Chaitanya himself. And he very specifically is a great devotee of Narasimhadev. How many of you have been to Mayapur? So there is Narasimhapalli in Mayapur. We have been to Lord Narasimhadev's temple. Sri Pradyumna Brahmachari used to sit there in his bhajan. That's where he used to sit and do bhajan for Lord Nrsimhadev. So the Nrsimha temple is so famous, it is so old, Nrsimhapalli, that is where he used to be. Now, when this Vaishnava, this sannyasi, reaches there, then he basically meets this Babaji and pays obeisances. And this Babaji is extraordinarily surprised because it's a sannyasi. So he gets up and then, very humble state, he starts paying obeisances, saying, "What is it?" Then he explains to him, "This is exactly the circumstance. I've been searching for that Vaishnava. In searching for this Vaishnava, I've come here to learn the truth about the nature of devotion. I need to learn the truth about Dharma." So the first question is, he asks him about Dharma. So this Babaji Maharaj takes him to his guru, Pradyumna Brahmachari. And Shri Pradyumna Brahmachari blesses them both. Now he's the Param Guru, so he blesses them both. And then they come back to the ashram. Then the Q&A starts. So the sannyasi, the Advaitin, starts posing questions to the Babaji Maharaj. And Babaji Maharaj, in deep realizations after meditating on the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya, it's very nice to hear this because there's such a powerful way to answer questions, literally. When you're studying scripture and when you want to understand scripture, a very powerful way to understand scripture is for us to meditate on Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet, seeking answers. Our intellect should step out and it should be out of the way. If you want answers from scripture, our intellect should be out of the way because we are used to applying our intellect. We're used to applying our senses because of this world. Our intellect should step away. So the idea is that you immediately, when you read scripture, go a little deeper and then start praying to Lord Chaitanya, wanting answers. So he does that, Babaji Maharaj, before answering him. Now let's go into the first question. Yeah. So the first question is as follows. I just want to read it, then we will get into the session. Sannyasi Thakura. That is the name given in the book to the sannyasi who has surrendered. Sannyasi Thakura. Dear Master, wherever I have been, I have heard Panditas expound the importance of Dharma, religious duty. And in response, I have always inquired what Dharma actually is in truth. However, the sad fact is that all the answers I have received are varied and contradictory. Therefore, now from you, I would like to know, what is the true Dharma of mankind? What is the true Dharma of mankind? Why does each of the different religious teachers preach his particular version of Dharma as being the only true religion? If there actually is but one Dharma, then why are the numerous religious leaders not in agreement and so following the singular spiritual path? So, a perfect question. Reality, that's where you ought to start because there's so much confusion. So why is there so much confusion if indeed everybody has understood what is the deeper aspect of philosophy? So there we start the session in understanding it. So before we go deeper into understanding the answer, because Babaji Maharaj starts with the answer, we'll have to go to the Bhagavad Gita to draw inspiration because this is parallel to the Bhagavad Gita. That is the reason why we are using the Bhagavad Gita and the Jaiva Dharma in cohesion because it's parallel, basically. So if you go to the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, you see that there is great confusion and suffering in the mind of Arjuna as he poses questions to Krishna. What is that suffering about? That suffering is all about not understanding Dharma, isn't it? The suffering is all about not understanding Dharma. So one has to understand at a fundamental level as to what is Dharma. You see, one basically requires an identity to function. We need an identity. Without having an identity, you can't function. So for instance, if someone is a mother, they need to have an understanding of what is the intrinsic nature of being a mother, what are the duties that are born out of being a mother. There can be certain distortions. They may not be able to do things properly. But the understanding has to be there that I am a mother, which is in fact establishing an identity. I am a mother. And then once that identity is established, then you understand what is duty following that identity. So for instance, when you work in the corporate sector, you're given a position, which is an identity. And that identity has a certain set of duties associated with it. So one has to understand what those duties are. But before that, you need an identity. So when Arjun was in great suffering in the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, what was his confusion? What were the identities that he was worried about? He was worried about the fact that he was a disciple of Dronacharya. One identity. So there are duties born out of being a disciple of a guru, and the guru is opposing me. If I have to kill him, there is suffering. So there's identity, there's duty, and then there's suffering. And then he had Bhishma in front of him, grandfather. So there is an identity. I am a grandson. And then out of this identity and this relationship come duty. And there's a violation of this duty if I were to kill my grandfather, suffering. Then there are cousins, suffering. And then there are other brothers, suffering. Friends, family members, suffering. There are so many different types of identities that are established. Each of these identities has a specific set of duties associated with it. And those duties were being violated when Krishna is saying, kill them. So great suffering. So what is Krishna's instruction to Arjun ultimately? What does he say? Huh? True, but what does he say? What is the ultimate instruction given by Krishna in 18.66? Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam raja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayasami ma suchaha. He says, do not fear. Why does he say, do not fear? He says, do not fear because there will be fear when someone is religious of stopping to do things which they're used to doing. You see, so many times we have questions from devotees. We were worshipping this, we are worshipping that. Could we stop? Will it be a problem if I do this? So, what is the translation given here? Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. Krishna practically is saying abandon all varieties of religion. So, dharma here has become synonymous with religion. So, there is an identity. And then dharma, which is established. Sarva dharman parityajya. Give up all varieties of dharma. Give up all varieties of chala dharma, upadharma, dharma which is associated with the upadhis. You see, I have several upadhis, coverings, but that is not my true nature. Give up all of those. That is the instruction of Krishna. Then the suffering goes on, suffering ends. This is the instruction of Krishna. So the point which you're trying to make is the Bhagavad Gita starts with an identity crisis. It starts with a crisis of not knowing what is one's identity. Because we don't know what is one's identity, then the duties associated in life become extraordinarily confusing. It starts there, and then it ends with Krishna saying, abandon. Otherwise, you cannot resolve anything. You have to abandon and you have to choose whatever is considered your Nitya Dharma. What is eternal? Consider your Nitya Dharma. So now, in this particular chapter of Jaiva Dharma, we're going to talk about Nitya Dharma, and then we're going to talk about Naimitika Dharma. What is Nitya and what is Naimitika? Okay? So the example given here is a beautiful example of water. Water, what is the intrinsic nature of water? What is intrinsic about water? Liquid. It is supposed to flow. Water in its form is liquid, it is supposed to flow. But the same water turns into ice. Does anybody call ice water? We don't. We call it ice. But in reality, it is just transformed water. You see, water has come in touch with a catalyst. And that catalyst or that atmosphere, that extraordinary cold, has frozen water and has changed its nature, but it is on a temporary basis. So there is intrinsic nature, which is Nitya Dharma, where the water is supposed to flow, and then there is temporary nature, which is Naimitika Dharma. What is causing the transformation between Nitya to Naimitya? That is called Naisarga. Naisarga or Naisargika is natural. It's temporarily natural, but ice is also natural, one would say. There is a certain state to it. So what is the definition of Nitya and Naimitika? Because there is an intrinsic nature of water. It has come in touch with a catalyst. The catalyst had transformed the water into ice. And as a consequence, the nature of water has changed. Now the problem is, because the nature of water has changed to a block of ice, if it is in that ice form for several days, we will never call it water. The big block of glaciers are never called water, they are called ice. You see? We never call it water. Why? Because it has stayed in that particular changed form for several days. So one forgets that this is water. You see, now all these global warming discussions are going on about the breaking and the melting of these glaciers, and as a consequence, the water levels are going up, and as a consequence, the planet is going to get flooded. You see? Now, the glaciers are melting, according to some, on a year-by-year basis, and they're turning into water. But do we ever call them water? We don't. We don't even identify them as water because we identify them as ice. You see? So, the stable form of a change assumes a reality which is temporary, which is the argument which has been given. It has been assumed that this is what it is. You see? There is an intrinsic nature. It comes in touch with the catalyst, and the catalyst transforms the intrinsic nature into a different thing altogether. That is called Naisarga. And as a consequence, the changed nature is assumed to be real, even though it is temporary. It is real, but it is temporary. It is real, but it is temporary. So now do we understand how this applies to us as well? The Jiva is Nitya Krishnadas. We are residents of the spiritual sky. But we have come in touch with matter. And since we have come in touch with matter, just as water has come in touch with freezing temperatures, our nature has changed. And because our nature has changed, and we have been in that particular nature for a stable form for many, many lifetimes, we are assuming that this is who we are. So there is a Sthula Sharira, which is the physical body. And then there is a Linga Sharira, which is the subtle body. The subtle body creates emotions. And then, which is in itself problematic. The Linga Sharira, the subtle body, creates emotions. It creates connections. These are all subtle connections. It creates certain emotions. It takes us away from our intrinsic nature of being attached to Krishna. The gross body is even worse because it makes us think that there is enjoyment in the senses. So now we are literally talking about a transformation that has occurred to the Jiva. And this Jiva has transformed himself over several lifetimes. Over several lifetimes, you have the genealogy tables. You can trace your family tree back to several thousand years. You know who your great ancestors are. And then there is this reality which sits in our mind that that's who we are. You see? That's a reality which sits in the mind that that's who we are. People assume that they are a part of a certain family. In most cases, they have had nothing to do with that family in the previous lifetime. In most cases, they have nothing to do with that family from a previous lifetime. They have nothing. Why is it that they are born into a certain family? It's because that family has characteristics which would allow this Jiva to execute its karmic reactions. There's a certain kind of a person who will become the father of the Jiva. There's a certain kind of the person who becomes a mother. There's a grandfather, grandmother. There's an environment. There's a social setting. There's a certain kind of language. This is karma. But then this karma practically puts one into a family where they've had absolutely no connection with the family other than the fact that their karmic profile has aligned itself with the karmic profile of the family. But do we think that way? None of us do. It is very bewildering, which is like the ice, water to ice state. It has changed, but nobody thinks this way. Right? Nobody thinks this way. There are some connections which are from the past life. See? There are some connections where someone was married in the previous lifetime to the same person, and then they come in this lifetime, they continue the marriage because they haven't solved their issues. So they continue fighting. Yeah? The fight started one lifetime prior, and in this lifetime it is continuing because they haven't resolved it. The relationship is not resolved, so it goes on, the war goes on, and they're put into their bodies and they have to kind of figure things out. It goes on sometimes. Sometimes they change their bodies. Husband becomes wife and wife becomes husband. So they realize, what the problem is in a deeper way. Krishna changes the nature of this particular jiva and says, go experience this one. It's a new one for you. Huh? Huh?
7 life.
Yes, Mataji, even one lifetime is so difficult. Can't say where to do 7. It's very difficult. One lifetime is so difficult. Where to do 7? It's very difficult. There is no connection. In reality, 7 is said is because that is creation. The creative principles involve 7 different rasas. So when people get together, then basically they are going to engage in the act of procreation because that is the dharma of a marriage. When people get together in marriage, the idea is to procreate, bring forth children, because that is a dharma. And that involves the 7 different types of rasas. And as a consequence, it is called, different types of, there are many connections to 7 in that particular combination of husband and wife coming together. But then the point which we are trying to make here is there's a great illusion because of the body and the emotions that we are in. There's a great illusion. This is a transformed state. It is somewhat stable. Imagine growing up with this state for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, depending on what our age is. How much would you believe that this state is real? We believe it as 100% real. This is a state. What is this particular state? What is it bringing to us to do? What is it making us do? It is creating and setting us a bunch of duties, isn't it? This particular state, which is temporary, which is particularly an illusory state because it is temporary, has created quite a few set of duties for us. It is creating duties for us. This is what I need to do. When I wake up, I have these priorities. Why so? Because I have this identity created by this temporary state. It is creating duties. No one plans. My spiritual master used to make this statement. It was actually a profound, very, very important statement. He used to say this, most devotees do not have pure devotional service as an objective in their hearts. It's a fact. If you literally look at a mirror every day in the morning and ask yourself sincerely, saying, have you woken up and are you going to go to bed with pure devotional service as the objective? The answer is, if you're truthful, if you're sincere, you will know that it is not true. You don't have pure devotional service in the heart because this particular body, has created a set of dharmas for us. And these dharmas cannot be called nitya dharma. This has nothing to do with pure devotional service, which is a nitya dharma. It has more to do with the naimitika dharma, which is created by the transformed state because of coming in touch with the catalyst. So in the case of water turning into ice, what is the catalyst? Temperature. So you can say environment. If there is a particular environment which is quite cold, water freezes. What is the catalyst for us? Why is it that the jiva, which is the real us, who is deep within, why is it that we have transformed ourselves into this extraordinary temporary state?
Due to association.
You should kind of go more into a simple answer. Simple answer would be false ego, yes, but what is a simple answer? I need very simple answers. Then you can build. Coming in touch with matter. You see, water comes in touch with an environment which is freezing. It turns into ice, which is a transformed state which is not real. Jiva comes in touch with matter and gets enveloped by matter. So, what do we understand about the jiva? It is said that we are tatastha. What is the meaning of tatastha? It's quite unusual. It is marginal. It is said the tata rekha. Tata rekha. Tata is bank. Yeah, something which is separating things is called tata. So tata rekha, which is that which separates spiritual from material, it is like a river. Yeah, river is spiritual. The land is material. The line which is dividing the river and the land is very thin, right? That line which is dividing river from land, it can claim it is water, it can claim it is land because it is dividing it. It is tatareka. It is a very marginal line. It can claim both natures. That is the nature of a jiva. Krishna is absolute in the spiritual sky. He is absolute. He is not in touch with matter. He is not in touch with matter. He never comes in touch with matter in any avatar. He never comes in touch with matter. And he descends to the spirit from the spiritual sky to execute whatever has to be done here. His Shakti executes it. You see, he never comes in touch with matter directly. He doesn't. He never comes in touch with matter. Krishna is transcendental situated. He is always transcendental. He is supreme. Jiva, on the other hand, which is us, we are tata, we are tatastha, because we have the ability to blend with either. So, which is a problem, because we have the ability to blend with either, we have a tendency to blend and go on the material side, which is the reason why we are covered. Now, go back to the initial part of the class. We mentioned that the sannyasi observed a Vaishnava going through spiritual tremors, going through emotions, going through prema. He was having ecstatic symptoms of bhava. As he was walking on the streets of Varanasi, he was displaying this extraordinary sense. You see, Aindra Prabhu had this very important principle while doing Harinam. I'm just digressing, but I just wanted to impress upon a point. Someone who is chanting Hari, Nam, Japa, with aparad, what is it which they can give to the world when they do Harinam? They will give Nam aparad to the very world. They would go and they do Harinam. People who hear it would receive Harinam, but it would not be very transformative because it is not pure. It is mixed with offenses. Because their japa is offensive, they will pass on the qualities to someone who is out there. Someone who is doing Namabas, he would pass on the quality of Namabas to the listeners of doing Harinam. If he does Harinam on the streets, people will become transformed, but his Shakti is at Namabas, offenseless chanting. He will have the ability to enthuse others at that level. Someone is in Bhava and Prema, then he has the ability to give Bhava and Prema. And then that becomes very transformative. Because Harinam is Golokir Premadana, Harinam Sankirtan. It has descended from Goloka. It is completely pure. Nama is pure. Krishna attracts through two means. We've said this so many times. He attracts through Nama and he attracts through the means of Guru. So, Guru is doing Kirtan. He is doing Sankirtan. The voice of the Guru carries the pure Nama into the ears of those who are listening, transforms their heart and attracts them. This is Krishna attracting through the means of Guru and through Nama. He has two means, Nama and Guru. So this sannyasi, when he was sitting in Varanasi, was attracted by the Nama of the great saintly Vaishnava who was experiencing ecstatic symptoms. So now we understand that the sannyasi was sitting and he was tatastha. He was sitting tatastha. He was sitting and he was involved in Advaita Siddhi, which essentially is trying to cross material nature. Probably he is at the cusp of crossing material nature. He doesn't have a relationship with Lord Krishna. He does not know Krishna. But then hearing the voice of this pure devotee automatically transforms his heart and he wants to seek Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy. Can you imagine how powerful prema is? It is compared to a spark. A spark has the same quality of a fire. If it touches something, it can completely inundate and inflame, especially if that particular object which it touches is inflammable. So two qualities. Fire has the ability to burn. The object that it burns also has to have the quality of being inflammable. So what is inflammable? Wood which is completely dry, which is burnt out, completely burnt out of all the emotions and so on. In terms of the material sense, it is completely burnt out. That is very inflammable because it's dry wood. So there's Advaitin who was sitting there. His objective was Jnana Marga. Obviously, he wasn't offensive. Because he wasn't offensive and his objective was Jnana Marga and he was trying to attain moksha, he surely had attained a very high level of discarding material nature. He had thrown away material nature because he was objecting. So the jnanis are much better than the karmis. The karmis are trying to engage their senses and attain spiritual and material benefits by engaging in activity. The jnanis are much better because at least they're aspiring for things which are above the material sky. So he was sitting there rejecting the material world, wanting something out of the spiritual sky, going beyond material world. So he was actually quite qualified in that sense. He was quite dry wood. He was very inflammable. So when the spark of prema came from this devotee's mouth as he was doing Harinam, this particular spark of prema entered into the heart of this particular sannyasi, the Advaita sannyasi, and it started burning up all kinds of desires for even moksha. He wanted to search for it. It is so powerful. Why did it happen that way? Because he is tatastha. The jiva has the capacity to take on spiritual nature. He is infinitesimal, as we define it. He is very small, the jiva. Because of being very small, even though he has wonderful qualities, or she has wonderful qualities, the ability to get affected by material nature is very high. So one who reaches the highest platforms of bhava, which is in sadhana, you talk about bhava. Prema is beyond. The ultimate condensation of bhava is prema. But then in sadhana, when we talk sadhana, we're talking about emotions, we're talking about bhava, because bhava is a higher state, but one still has to do sadhana to experience prema. Right? So in that particular state, the jiva is pure, but it can still fall down. Someone even in that stage can fall down because he is very small. So this particular jiva of the sannyasi in Varanasi, he was quite pure in his intentions. He did not have material objectives. He must have been without fault because he was not committing offenses. As a consequence, when this pure Vaishnava who is filled with prema is passing by and he's doing kirtan, that particular Harinam enters into his heart, enters into his ears, and begins transforming him and causes this fire of wanting to come and give up everything and then go back to Navadvi. So this is the nature of Tatastha Lakshana. This is Tatastha Lakshana, where one can be here or one can be here. Both sides, either side of the material platform. Any questions so far? Yes, Prabhu.
I think in Isha Upanishad or somewhere we learned that where it says like avidya leads to darkness. And,
Nations.
Vidya leads to even more darkness. Like vidya in the sense
So-called.
The Mayavadi or that leads to even more greater darkness. So when you say here that he was a Mayavadi or following the Advaitic principle, isn't he already like?
He was following the Advaitin principle, but then in this book of Jaiva Dharma, it is quite unusual. The questions are going to be answered further out. Okay, this question about Mayavad versus the pure philosophy of Shankaracharya. Because the pure philosophy of Sri Shankara has nothing to do with Mayavad. Mayavad is a distortion of Shankara's philosophy. Sri Shankaracharya did not offer Mayavad. He offered Advaitavad. It is a distortion of the present day followers of taking that and then twisting it and burning it out of shape to the point where it appears to be completely distorted, it's become offensive. Because ultimately, when Sri Shankaracharya was present, he was Shiva incarnate, not an ordinary personality. He was Lord Shiva himself. So he cannot come here and not be a Vaishnava. Whoever comes here before Mahaprabhu is setting the stage for Mahaprabhu's Dharma, Yuga Dharma. Mahaprabhu came here to offer Yuga Dharma. Any Acharya who preceded him in Bharatvarsha was setting the stage for Mahaprabhu to come. Let us just understand it. Be it Sri Ramanujacharya, be it Madhvacharya, they were setting the stage for Mahaprabhu to come and to offer the Yuga Dharma. Because the Yuga Dharma is the most important Dharma. And when the Lord himself appears to offer Yuga Dharma, everybody else who precedes them is aligned to it, especially if they are powerful personalities. So Sri Shankaracharya, Shiva himself, he could not have given a distorted philosophy to such an extent that it becomes an offense for those jivas to move forward. What he offered was an improvement over Buddhism which was existing in India. You see, the Buddhists, even the Brahmanas had given up the Vedas. So it is said that if something is written in Sanskrit, is that something which is called bona fide? The answer is no. You see? Buddhism is written in Sanskrit. It is rejected. Everything is rejected if it is not supported by the Vedas. So since the Vedas were rejected by Lord Buddha, Buddhism is rejected by our principles. So Shankaracharya came back to re-establish Vedic principles. So it was not a distortion. So someone who is aligned properly with Shankaracharya could not be a complete, I would say, offender. It is a distorted version which becomes offensive. That is one point. Second point is that there is always the concept of Agyata Sukriti. When Mahaprabhu took Diksha, he took it from an Advaitin. When Mahaprabhu went and then he sat down in the assembly of what was the number of Prakashan and the Saraswati, all of them were Advaitins. And then what did Mahaprabhu do? He sat down in the place where everybody washes their feet, but then he wanted to somehow enter into their hearts and everybody became a disciple of Mahaprabhu. So it was not denied. This is Mahavadanyaya, Krishna Prema Pradayate. He was not really judging everyone based on what they were. He was distributing this whole aspect of Prema and Harinam to everybody indiscriminately by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, not Nityananda. Lord Nityananda carried the mercy. He distributed it all over. So again, that is the second point. The point is, even if someone were to be faulty from a philosophical point of view, but they have a desire to make progress and they are situated rightly, then Mahaprabhu's mercy would be found, which is the nature of Harinam. When you do Harinam on the streets, you are attracting jivas. You're giving them, this is Lord Nityananda's arrangement. It is just being distributed. It is being distributed on the streets, which is quite astonishing. This is how our movement flourished. Srila Prabhupada started chanting in Tompkins Park in New York with his kartal. That's how our movement started. Our movement started with Harinam. It is perhaps the most important function of a movement is to perform Harinam. The most important, because that's where our movement started. That is how jivas get awakened. That's how they come in touch with eternal truth. That's how they come in touch with Nama. Okay, what is your question?
So I have a similar question probably. I think as follow-up, two actually. One was that you said Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga is better than Karma Yoga. You said that when you're doing something for Krishna, but I was reasoning out that becomes Bhakti Yoga.
If the third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita talks about being able to perform our duties without attachment for results. Okay, when you perform your duties with attachment for results, that is what I was talking about. That these are fruitive workers. These are fruitive workers where they have already designed and what they want. They are performing a fire sacrifice. Krishna is invited. Krishna says even those personalities are magnanimous. Don't get me wrong. They could still do it in Krishna's name, but ask for material results. They are much better than those who don't worship Krishna for that. Do you understand? So it's a wonderful thing, even if they were to ask for it. But if you want to make a comparison between Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga is superior because Karma Yoga has aspirations within this world, Jnana Yoga has aspirations beyond. So when one is Krishna conscious, then we are not even talking about the ordinary Karma Yoga of wanting fruitive desires. We're literally talking about action in Krishna consciousness.
Then doesn't Prabhupada say that if somebody is aspiring for Brahman Jyoti, that's like height of sense?
To merge into Brahma Jyoti is the height of sense gratification. A Jnani is better than a Karmi. Is better than a Karmi because his aspirations are above the material sky. The Karmi is completely situated on enjoyment of the gross platform. The Jnani is understood that this matter is useless, it is problematic, I have to reject it. I want to go higher. So he is superior. So when you start saying Brahmajyoti and sense gratification in terms of wanting to give up, Srila Prabhupada is equating both at the same platform. Yes, the answer is, it is one and the same. For us, moksha in Krishna consciousness, moksha and karma kanda are at the same level. That's why we say anya bilashita shunyam, jnana karmadi anavritam. But even amongst karma and jnana is superior. Jnana is superior because its objectives are above. This is the conclusion of Srila Rupa Goswami. That it is superior because it is above. It is above in the spiritual sky. It is above the material creation. So it is superior. As the objective is above, it is superior. You have some kind of a better chance because you have at least understood that the matter is useless. You see? Does it make sense? Because you will have to take it in the context in which Srila Prabhupada made those statements as well. We'll have to see it in what context is he making that statement. If he is talking about pure devotional service, then of course, merging with Krishna, which is what the Advaita Siddhi is, merging with the Brahmajyoti, is surely not something which is wonderful at all, that we condemn that because it's one of the lowest forms of mukti. Yeah? But for someone who is on that path of wanting to reject the material world and wanting to go and cross the material world into the spiritual sky, even if he is on the path of just wanting moksha, he is superior to those who want to enjoy with their bodies. That is the conclusion of Shastra. It's a simple understanding as well. Yes. Sorry, are you done, Akhilesh bro?
And second question.
Please. Sorry, go ahead.
Other question was when you said that Krishna doesn't come in touch of material nature, but Prabhupada also explains Lord Shiva's position that he is Krishna in touch with.
That is exactly how he comes in touch with material nature. He doesn't come directly in touch. Krishna and Goloka may not come in touch with material nature, but then he comes and descends as Lord Shiva. So Lord Shiva is not Jiva, he is not Krishna, because he is in touch with Maya, material nature. He's managing it. See, that's why we have spiritual and material aspects of it. Lord Shiva, Kailashpati, whom we know, is not the same as the one in the spiritual sky. There are two different personalities. Yeah? There's a little bit of a deeper aspect of it where there are two different personalities. The first expansion from Karanodakashai Vishnu, who basically wants to glance at material nature and impregnating the nature. That glance takes the form of Sadashiva. And then there is an expansion who comes and manages the universes, who is also Rudra. So these are two different levels of Lord Shiva himself. There is one which is in the higher plane, who is Vishnu Tattva, which is why Lord Advaita Acharya is considered to be the same as Sadashiva. And then there is also this particular personality who is in the material sky, who is an expansion, who is able to do that. So there is a prototype in the spiritual sky, and then there is a reality in the material sky. Sure, please.
So, how does Sadashiva look?
How does he look?
Yeah.
He is Vishnu Tattva. He is Vishnu Tattva.
He has 4 hands.
Vishnu Tattva, sometimes 2 hands, 4 hands, depending on. He is their Vishnu Tattva. Yeah. So, there is Lord Sadashiva, his consort is Rama. Lord Sadashiva becomes Shiva. Sri Rama becomes Durga Devi. So, this is a part of Brahma Samhita as well. Shambhu is a transformation of milk into yogurt. So Lord Shiva, Shambhu, is yogurt. Krishna, Vishnu, is milk. In one sense, they're equal. In other sense, they're different because there's some kind of a mixture which has occurred, a transformation that has occurred to yogurt. Yeah? So, that's the difference. Sure. Yes, Mataji.
Do you think that their status, a person who is also listening, they can putting in pressure on the heart of the listener. They also attain the state of
Temporarily. Temporarily, they can go through ecstatic transformation. Sometimes you can be next to someone like that, and you can start feeling their emotions. You can even have visions of the spiritual sky because you're around them. You can have visions. Sorry? Because the consciousness of the person has not transformed itself. It is that they are in touch with such an intense spiritual potency that they can experience it. Real spiritual emotions cannot be established unless an identity has been established in the spiritual sky. At Nishta, when Namaprad ends and Namabhas begins, fixed nature of chanting is when Namabhas begins. Because during Namaprad, we are constantly fighting with our own Naimitika Dharma. There's so many different duties that we have established and identities that we have established in this world. And the demands of those identities and duties in our brain, as we sit down and take our japa beads, we are constantly challenging ourselves to focus on the japa beads and to be able to hear Harinam. These are anarthas. Naimitika Dharma, or the transformed state of the Jiva, which is material, will produce all kinds of unwanted aspirations, goals. Those unwanted aspirations and goals, which are of the nature of passion, ignorance, goodness mixed with passion, consciousness-wise, will produce a lot of confusion in the heart, and as a consequence, the devotee can't listen to Harinam, or they have no taste for Harinam. They're chanting, the chanting is bland, it enters into their ears, they're chanting, they're making an attempt, but they find it almost, it's like a chore. It is almost, onerous, it's almost a repetitive, very monotonous task. They feel that they're making no progress. It is because there are so many different aspirations. When one reaches the point of Nishta, the purification of reaching Nishta also happens through Harinam. It happens through Harinam and coming in touch with saintly personalities, because mercy is required. Yeah, for us to make progress, mercy is required. So, the transformed state, when one reaches a fixed nature and Nishta, then all of these different Naimitika dharmas have been pacified and they are becoming calm, and 80% of the effort during japa goes towards and contributes towards improving our Krishna consciousness. 80%. 20% there's still some kind of a semblance. And I'm giving you percentages as an example. Please don't take these percentages as being Shastric, because in Shastra they are not given percentages. They're just given that there is some percentage of issues and being in touch with material nature. In Newcastle, in the UK, I gave a class, and it was Sunday feast class, and then I was talking about 90% of the devotees. I have this habit of giving percentages. So there was this Prabhupada disciple who challenged, how do you know it is 90%? Because he was quite serious, how do I know it 90%? Then I said, okay, most devotees. He said, okay, that's better. Okay. So let's not be too precise with numbers, but the point I just wanted to convey is that most of the problems have gone, and as a consequence, you're able to hear Harinam. Your ears should be able to follow the sound emanating from your mouth, even if it's a whisper. You should be able to hear. Wherever it goes, your ears should be able to follow it. If you can just follow the sound, even if it's a whisper, as you're speaking Harinam, with your ears, wherever the sound goes, and there's no disturbance, the mind is still, then you have gained control over the mind. This is the point of Namabhas. This is liberation. Because the mind can't disturb you. The mind has no control over you. All the senses are now focused on the desire of the soul. The Atma is desiring, chanting. All the senses are focused on it. You see? They can't move away from it. The mind is not disturbing. Then when that stage comes, you're contributing to Krishna consciousness each and every day when you sit and do japa. And because you're contributing to Krishna consciousness on a daily basis, the advancement is quite rapid in a few years. Then at that point in time, one gets more help from the spiritual sky, because they have understood that this person is almost near the covering of the material sky. Do you understand what that means? It means that you have transcended all the coverings of the material sky. You have transcended your false ego. You have transcended the 24 elements. You're right at the top of the material crust. You're ready to cross into the spiritual sky. You are largely situated in pure goodness. Largely. I would say high levels of mode of goodness. I wouldn't say pure goodness. High levels of the mode of goodness, material mode of goodness. As a consequence, there is no disturbance. then at that point one receives a lot of help. And during that help, one understands what is their nature. They start understanding whether they are attached to Krishna as a cowherd, or they're attached to Radharani, what kind of service are they doing in the spiritual sky. This information starts coming to them. It's organic. It is not a process which requires prodding. It does not require anything. Those days, when the Goswamis were on the planet, because of the presence of the Goswamis was so powerful, just their very presence used to make others realize who they were. Do you understand? If someone were to come in touch with the Goswamis, because they were so powerful, their very presence used to make the other person realize what they were. Sometimes they used to be told. But in the present day, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and our other acharyas have very clearly written that we follow the principles of devotional service of chanting the holy names. And as we chant the holy names very sincerely, this very organic process will reveal the inner secrets of our identity as time progresses. People can take an entire lifetime to complete anartha nivritti. They can take an entire lifetime to go from the mixed modes of passion, ignorance, to passion, to goodness, and finally reach the point of higher levels of goodness, where they're tapping the door of the spiritual sky. And because they're tapping, someone is saying, okay, someone is at the door. They need help.
Maybe next month.
Then when they leave the bodies, they have to start at that birth. But it's such a high risk of just leaving the body. And even though you have to come back and you're given an opportunity for you to be able to continue the journey, it's just anything in the material world is high risk. It's extraordinary risk. It is very high risk in the material world. So you come back. So it is not wise to have aspirations for coming back, because we have been given the mercy for us to be able to go back in one lifetime. But it takes an entire lifetime just to cross all this mode of goodness and so on and reach that point and start knocking. And when you start knocking, help is received. One starts receiving information. The information then allows one to develop taste. It is like, I belong to a different place. I'm not a part of this world. Do you know how exciting that can be? Can you imagine? Can you imagine knowledge, real knowledge and real experience, which allows you to understand that you're not a part of this world? There's someone who loves you beyond. You have family on the other side. Can you imagine? It's devastating materially. Devastating materially because material life ends, finished. It's over. You cannot have the semblance or connection with material world because it is over. Then when chanting happens, each and every day there's taste. There's deeper and deeper attachment to the holy names. The holy names start communicating with us. And then finally one reaches the higher and higher stages, where they come in touch with the divine couple and the servants, personal servants, and so on, and entering more and more. So our scriptures have given us a very scientific process. They've given us stages which are scientific. They're not telling us that this is only for these people. It is only for those people. They're saying whoever follows the process of Mahaprabhu is going to get benefits. Isn't this exciting? Isn't this exciting? Even if you have to come back, and even if you have to wait 2 lifetimes, 3 lifetimes, isn't this worthy of pursuing with full dedication? Is there anything else which you can possibly establish in your life which is more worthy? Is there anything that you're ready to do for this? You see, you have to really contemplate. You have to really contemplate. My spiritual master, he graduated from Princeton. He was very well employed. But when he understood the goal of Krishna consciousness, he sold everything, deposited all the dollars into the temple's hundi, and joined full-time. And the reason he gave, because he was intellectual, he was very smart. He said, the goals attained in Krishna consciousness are so clear that I can't really waste my time. You know, if I know something so profound is available and it is being given to me, then what's the point in having other aspirations which are distracting? So he just moved forward. So the point I'm trying to make is that this is the purpose of coming together for Sangha. Because Naimitika Dharma, the transformed state of a Vastu, which is us, we are transformed, we are contaminated by material nature. It cannot change unless you come in touch with Krishna. So all preaching that is being done is to bring us closer to Krishna, as a consequence, we are able to shed this Naimitika Dharma, we are able to shed this reality which is distorted, and we are able to embrace the real reality. Does it make sense? That we are here to give up Naimitika, which is established because of the distortion, and to take up Nitya Dharma. What is Nitya Dharma? It's eternal. It is intrinsic to the Jiva. And it cuts across religions, it cuts across races. And if you really want to observe the writing of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, look at Srila Prabhupada's offering to the Parampara. Go around the world. Is there anything changing in different temples around the world, in Africa, South America, different parts of Europe and America? No, nothing is changing. People from different walks of life, from different places around the world with different cultures, different languages, they all are doing the same thing, and they're all experiencing great happiness. This is an extraordinary proof of the eternal nature of the Jiva, where we are able to adapt to something which is pure. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur made a very profound statement. He said, if you're going to have an extraordinarily pure transmission, you don't need violence to transmit that. So our religion, which is the Krishna consciousness path given by Lord Chaitanya, it has absolutely zero need for violence and imposition of our views, because it is so pure that the Jiva will be attracted just by making it available. It's extraordinary. While you have seen, Christianity had violence. You see, there were crusades, defenders of Christianity. Islam, needless to say, extraordinary amount of violence was imposed upon by people through Islam, trying to establish Islam. In Hinduism, the Shaivites and the Vaishnavites, they had intense fights with extraordinary amount of violence in Hinduism as well. So all these are distortions in one sense. So when you have a distorted religious principle, it requires external, extraneous, violent means to impose. But when you have a principle which is very pure, then it transmits so naturally and organically that you don't need anything. It reaches the heart of the Jiva. So the Naimitika Dharma, which is the temporary nature of the Jiva, because of its coming in touch with the material world, then is given up by the Jiva quite voluntarily, and then the Nitya Dharma is being established. Only coming in touch with Krishna can make this happen. How do you come in touch with Krishna? How?
Association.
How?
Harinam.
Harinam. Harinam. Namanaminoho abhinatvam. So there's no difference. So you come in touch with Krishna through the Nama. And because you come in touch with Krishna through the Nama, because you come in touch with Krishna through prasadam, because you come in touch with Krishna through those who are attached to him, because you come in touch with Krishna through the deity forms, because you come in touch with Krishna through Srimad Bhagavatam, hearing his pastimes, our eternal nature is coming forth, it is being exposed. This distortion and the duties formed due to this distortion are slipping away. New goals are being established. New circles are being established. You see? Isn't it profound? You see, there's also the nature of mantras. Mantras create a universe around you. When you start chanting Harinam, when you start chanting the Mahamantra, you make new friends, you eat a new kind of food, you have new kinds of association, you have new kind of taste, your universe changes. When the Guru comes into your life, the sadhu, he basically reestablishes your faith by giving his faith into your heart. And what happens then? The universe is reestablished in our heart. We change everything. Haven't we all changed quite dramatically after coming in touch with the movement? Our friend circles are gone. Sometimes it can be destroyed. It is destroyed. You see? Our friend circles are gone. Everything is gone. And around the world, we see this. See, in the Western world, specifically with Westerners, it's even more profound because they have to give up so much more than we do. Because in India, from Indian families, it's not so intense because we still are in touch with, certain, I would say, flavors of Krishna consciousness in India, Bharatvarsha. You can still adjust. You can still impose your views on the family. They can still change. They can blend because they know Janmashtami, they know Krishna is supreme. At least all of these is established in our Bharatvarsha. It's very fortunate. But imagine in the Western world, you have to uproot an entire culture, you have to uproot an entire family and way of life, and then you're re-establishing yourself. For them, it's very important for them to move into the temple and then wear the kind of clothes which devotees have to wear. It's a very big deal. Normally, during initiation, names are not changed. It is only during second initiation names are changed in Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta. But because Srila Prabhupada started preaching in the West, and because Westerners have names which are completely different, they don't have a Vedic significance or connection, it is necessary for the initiate to receive a name. So our Harinam Diksha, the first initiation, name giving started because of Srila Prabhupada. We'll stop here for today. It's almost 10 o'clock. Any other question? Yes.
And you said you aside the literature.
Inspiration in books. Yeah.
I was thinking, I studied audit. I don't understand that.
Whatever we get is coming from him. Even if we could feel.
How do I know I get
Huh?
How do I know
We make an attempt. The ability to keep the intellect aside is also a skill. It takes time to develop, and you'll have to learn to step aside. If you have the ability to step aside and receive and say, Krishna, I can't do this, you have to do it, then Krishna will come through. So that requires a breaking down of who we think we are. It requires understanding that we are nothing. Yes.
memorization? Prabhuji, a few years back, I was trying to practice Krishna consciousness. That time, I became so much fanatic
You became fanatic. Okay.
that actually I cannot. If I think Krishna is there, when I was hearing your lecture every Friday, then Krishna is there. Then sometimes we talk like that only, right? Everything is, and then people around me, I realize that no one likes to, I mean, in my neighborhood, or I was kind of alone.
Okay.
And we talk something else to please others, and basically to please ourselves too, because we want to talk. And then the things, actually I cannot be. My nature is I cannot make balance. I mean, if I think this way, I will talk that way only. I cannot, mend myself much to, and if I'm talking materially, then I'm there. So, वो balance जो है ना नहीं करना आता है, मतलब तो actually the question is.
Good. Thank you. I was just waiting for it. I just told you we don't have many lifetimes. Yeah? Chalo.
Yes,
That's
that is
fine.
the problem.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I do not have a lot of time, then I have problem in taking interest in different other things that are not related to, even
So you're
in
saying-
Grihastha, when we have to, do this, do that, then I feel
Being under pressure
yes.
while performing Krishna consciousness is good. It is not bad. Being under pressure allows you to throw away things which are unnecessary. It allows you to reprioritize. It allows you to think as to what is required, what is not required. Before we come into Krishna consciousnness, a day is filled with activities which have probably zero consequence. But now, because we have become busy, we are chanting 16 rounds. We have 2 hours of sadhana in the morning. We are associating with devotees. There is a Sunday feast. There are festivals. our table basically has been cleared out of the clutter. We have thrown so many things away which used to exist and used to be a part of our life. And now what we have is truly functional in many ways. Functional meaning this is required, as a consequence I have it. Okay? If it is not required, I throw it away. So which is efficient in reality. So being busy in Krishna consciousness is good. Being busy as a sadhaka is very good. Having no time to chant, but still chanting is good, because that is better. You'll focus more, you'll appreciate more, and you'll be able to appreciate the time which is being set aside. Having too much time is bad. Literally, it is bad. And the reason is that it is almost a very complacent lifestyle. Nothing gets accomplished much, and it means that you have too much time in your hands. There's no such thing as retirement in Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, as you advance in Krishna consciousness, you get more busy. Because there'll be a sense of urgency, there will be a feeling that you don't belong here. As a consequence, you need to use your time properly. You don't want to waste your time. You see? So the point I'm trying to make here is that don't look at our lives which are busy as a liability, as long as you're able to still feel that each and every day when you're chanting, and when each and every week when you come in touch with devotees and you're moving forward, you still have improvements in Krishna consciousness in terms of your enthusiasm is increasing. You want to read, you want to chant. Does it make sense? The issue is, if week after week we start feeling down and we feel out and we feel that we have nothing to do with Krishna consciousness, or we have nothing to do with the devotees and we don't feel enthused, that is an issue. So being busy is not. Being busy is good because then it allows you to focus. Having no time is good because then it allows you to use your time effectively. Senses need to be engaged. Yes, Prabhu.
The Jiva has a Tahastha Shakti, has the ability to blend.
Yes.
That is because of the free will, or?
Yes, it is because of the free will, but in most cases, there is no free will if you're not in the mode of goodness. If you're not in the mode of goodness, you don't have the ability to choose. The mode of passion and the mode of ignorance just pushes you wherever you ought to be. So the answer is yes, it is because of free will, but at least there has to be a higher level of mode of goodness for one to have free will. It is only those with a higher level of goodness who have the ability to choose the direction where they can go. Otherwise, the senses and the contaminated mind and intelligence are just going to take them.
Prabhuji, is it okay not to show to goodness to those kind of people who take advantage of goodness?
It is okay to what?
Not to show goodness to those kind of people.
Not to be kind enough.
No, being in mode of goodness doesn't mean being naive or stupid. I think I was being a bit direct, yeah? Being in the mode of goodness does not mean being naive or stupid. Being in the mode of goodness means having the wisdom to do what is required. Like Sri Hanumanji, quite fascinating. In Sundarakanda, there are so many different dialogues between Mother Sita and Hanumanji, which are just very fascinating to see the kind of reasoning and logic which Mother Sita was questioning Hanumanji when she refused to go along with him back to Lord Ram, because Hanumanji said, "Dear mother, I can carry you. I'm powerful enough." Then she started placing very logical answers. She said, first and foremost, that you have to cross this ocean. If you have me with you, then you would not be able to fight efficiently, because there will be attacks. Very logically, she knew the Rakshasas are going to corner him. They're going to try attacking. She said, you can't fight efficiently because you'll be worried about me. So you might feel, you might drop me in the ocean. If you drop me in the ocean, I'll become food for the aquatics. This is Mother Sita's statement in the Ramayana, in Sundarakanda, Valmiki Ramayana. Then she talks about the fact that I cannot have Lord Sri Ram, I cannot have, disgrace Lord Sri Ram by having someone else, do this for me, because I need him to feel the sense of victory. So he comes, he punishes Ravan, and then I can come back. This requires intense mental strength, but this is logic. Being able to see the environment and take a decision. This is wisdom. This Mother Sita, Mahalakshmi herself. Then she says, obviously, she's applying Dharma now, and she's saying, I cannot touch anybody else, any other male other than my husband. So I can't touch you. Even though you are my son, I can't touch you. You see? So these are logical statements. before Shri Hanumanji leaves Lord Ram and he wants to come and meet Mother Sita, he makes a statement to Lord Sri Ram saying, how will she recognize me as a friend? You need to give me something. You see, so this is mode of goodness where it gives you supreme intelligence, where you are acting and you're acting very logically, you're understanding. You see? So entering into Lanka, Sri Hanumanji became very minute. When he was with Mother Sita, he waited all night long just to see and observe the surroundings. This is mode of goodness, higher mode of goodness. This is transcendence. He was a bhakta. Yeah. So the point I'm trying to make is, as we go higher and higher, you see, it doesn't mean that we become naive. We become intelligent, but for the purpose of serving. Yeah. So it's not bad. Yes.
It's part of reflection, right? Like reading in reflection. So in reflection, we try to become, humble and keep our intelligence aside and try to see what I'm receiving from this particular statement. So basically, keeping intelligence aside means understanding that I cannot understand it on my own, so I depending on you.
You see, when we use the word, let me explain this, because I think I was not clear the first time. Let me explain it now. When we use the word realization, we use it often in our circles. Yeah. The first time when most people come to hear what is realization, they come to hear in Krishna consciousness. Realization. Prabhu, I had a wonderful realization. But what is realization? Realization is all about being able to transform information into wisdom. So it is about being able to read 10 pages, being able to transform it, and then receive a message. But where does that message come from? This message comes from Guru Tattva. This message comes from the super soul who is in the heart. So this understanding of what is given in scripture and transforming scripture and being able to understand what is given in scripture is not an ordinary task. It is not done by everyone. It is done by those who have a high level of ability to transform. Then when they have a high level of ability to transform what they read and what they hear, and it gets transformed in the heart, the super soul is instructing them, and this is how it should be. So they have this realization. There's this awakening. Oh, I read this. This is so exciting. When I read this for the first time, it was so exciting for me. It was real exciting because it was just talking to me. The book was just talking to me as if it was meant for me, kind of solving things for me or whatever it is. It's very exciting. So you basically have this feeling that the author is talking to you. The super soul is giving instructions. So this has to do with the principle of hearing. You see? If Guru Tattva and the blessings of our Guru are not there, then the person does not have the ability to hear the message given in Shastra. And this is internal hearing. It has nothing to do with the externals. This is Akash Tattva. Amongst the 5 different Tattvas, sound is transmitted through Akash Tattva. The quality of sound is Akash Tattva. The quality of, for example, sparsha, feeling, is Vayu Tattva. The quality of sight is Agni Tattva. The quality of taste is Jala Tattva. So this is Akash Tattva because the sound energy is Akash Tattva. So this transmission of being able to receive sound, which sits in our heart and starts giving us wisdom, is also requires Guru's blessings. This requires the worship of Srila Prabhupada, requires Guru Puja, requires proper chanting. That is why one needs to chant very sincerely to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. We cannot understand Srimad Bhagavatam unless one is a sincere chanter. One cannot understand Bhagavad Gita unless one is sincerely in chanting. You can't understand scripture. The reason is that scripture speaks to you within. The super soul is revealing things to you. And this is a natural process. This is Akash Tattva. You hear inside. See, the hearing process is inside. This is the Dharma of hearing, which is done inside. See, you hear inside that, okay, this is what the scripture is trying to tell us. Because the scripture is now being transformed and one is hearing. The transformation is occurring, one is hearing. And there are different levels. Different people have different levels of realization. So that's the point we just want to mention. So when you step aside and you depend on the Guru's blessings, then the hearing process is quite good. And as a consequence, one receives it. So, Mukham karoti vachalam pandum langayate gire yatkupatam amande Shri Gurum Deenatarinam. So, it's very important for the Guru to give instructions. Once the Guru gives instructions, then there's a power for us to be able to hear and understand Scripture. When you read, you're hearing. Shravanam. Isn't it? When you're reading, you are hearing, basically. When you're hearing, also you're hearing. When you're seeing, for example, when you want to go to the Dham and you want to go around Parikrama, we can't really see the speciality of Vrindavan unless someone is talking to us who is powerful enough to be able to give us that motivation that this is what Vrindavan is. We can't really see what is so good and wonderful about Vrindavan. Yeah? We can't externally see. So even Dham Seva of seeing is done through hearing. So Shravanam is so important. And once Shravanam is done nicely, then Kirtan happens. Shravanam. First, Shravanam is very important. Hearing process is very important. How do you cultivate the hearing process? Guru Puja. Without the mercy of Guru, it's not possible. One cannot hear, and one does not hear, which means that they are shut down. You see, there are some people who can't just apply their intellect. You see? There's a big difference between emotions and intellect. One can be intellectually very strong and emotionally very weak. They can be messy emotionally. But sometimes people can't apply their intellect even. They can't. You see, they have difficulty in applying their intellect. They get frozen. Yeah, they can't. And this is because there's an issue with Guru Tattva. Then Guru Tattva's mercy comes in, then the intellects get sorted out, and then they're able to receive messages from the spiritual, from the super soul. These are transmissions. One can't really, I would say, this is a very organic process based on authority, adhikar. If there is adhikar, then one hears more. If there's less adhikar, then they hear less. These are transmissions. It all depends on holy names, chanting of the holy names. So it's so powerful for us. That is why Srila Gaur Kishodas Babaji Maharaj was a complete illiterate, but his realizations of the essence of scripture were so profound that this great scholar Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur wanted to take initiation from him and receive Diksha from him, because the realization was so profound, it was so powerful. Why? Because he was in prema. His chanting was so powerful that the transmissions were coming into his heart, and he could instruct anybody. He could give blessings to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur and make him a great scholar. He could make him right. Well, we don't want to classify hearing as literally hearing a class. We don't want to classify hearing as literally being able to read. We don't want to do that. We want to understand that this devotee who is working day in and day out because he has no interest in classes or anything, but then he has this deep interest in extending himself for service, his transformations and realization of Krishna consciousness will occur within automatically. We don't have to worry about that. You understand? So it is not so much this aspect of involvement in Brahmanical work, because this is Brahmanical work, reading, hearing. In one sense, one has to have the Brahmanical interest, but it is not necessary for deeper realizations. One does not have to have the capacity to sit in a class, but if he serves Lord Chaitanya day and night with his hard labor and chants the holy names, he is going to have all the profound realizations that he requires and conviction to move forward. It's very important for us to know that. Because that is the reason why we shouldn't judge devotees based on their service or their propensities. Should never judge them. It's very difficult to know who is very dear to Lord Chaitanya. Very difficult to know. So we don't want to be misjudging. Anything else before we close up? close shop today?
I just have a question.
Please.
Every day in the night before I sleep, I think I did not do anything spiritually this day. So I feel every day. Same thing.
So your
My question is, what should I do?
it's a good thing.
Efficiency, what is it?
I think, but I
Every
think
day I feel one day is past. I did not do anything.
I think the problem is, I think the situation is not so much about what we reflect on at the end of the day. It is more about how you start your day. If you start your day, if not you, everybody, every one of us, my spiritual master used to start his day thinking this is the last day on the planet because no one knows. No one really knows which is the last day on the planet. We don't know. It's a reality. So if you start the day with this is the last day on the planet, and then start prioritizing the day based on what you would do if you really had the realization of what is the activity that you would really plan, where you'll be very sensitive to eliminate things which are not required, you'll be more sensitive to take on things which are prioritized, then towards the night, I think the issue would get resolved because the day has been planned with the thought in the morning that this is my opportunity to maximize. There is going to be opportunity throughout the day if you start the day with that. The most important is to chant, because if we chant, then we have the ability to come in touch with the holy names and everything starts there. This is a technicality of how this universe is created. What you do at the starting point of when the sun is appearing in the horizon, that quality will pass on throughout the day and will remain with you till the very night. So even if you can't really strategize, manage the day based on our priorities because we don't have the ability to do so because everybody else is managing us in different ways, fix yourself to doing extraordinarily important, very spiritual activity in that particular time during and before sunrise and after sunrise. It is a technicality of how this world is arranged. Your day would be immersed with potency based on what you do then. That is how you get blessings. Sometimes people ask me, I don't have any energy. I can't wake up. And then I will find that all they have to do is wake up and then worship. So I would give them advice that you wake up and worship and you're going to have energy. They'll say, Prabhuji, I have this problem. I can't wake up. It's like a chicken and egg principle, for the lack of a better word. But then I tell them, do it. When they try and do it, they wake up, force themselves for a couple of days, they will find that the sun, which is supposed to produce and give us a lot of energy, he becomes very beneficial and gives us what is required for us to continue the day because you're starting the day in a very auspicious way. So this whole concept of Brahma Muhurta, the concept of doing Mangalarti, it's all so powerful and it's all designed technically with the understanding of how the universe functions. You see, it's not done randomly. It has been designed with intent. It is quite technical. So this is how the universe functions. At the beginning of Kali Yuga, the demigods have really not done much in terms of arranging for destruction that we see now. All they have to do is just shift the consciousness. Sometimes you have the volume button. You can raise the equalizer button up and down. For them, they have their own equalizer, the demigods, who are managing the universe. When a new time cycle starts, a yuga starts, they have to just adjust the caliber to either lower modes of ignorance, passion ignorance, mode of goodness, and they will find that everything which is being done in that yuga is going to follow that particular mode. Do we understand? That is how they manage it. In a similar way, when we start our day, keeping transcendence as a priority, and we fix our day in the morning in a very nice way, then the whole day is meant to function that way because this is a rule of the universe. It is science in one sense because it's going to do what it's supposed to do. Everybody here, I think, has experienced it at some point or the other when they attend Mangalarti and they've done it consistently over a period of time. When you complete your chanting, when you do your Guru Puja, when you do the worship of the deities, and this is how you start the day, you find that the day becomes very manageable. Actually, it has a lot of room. You feel a certain sense of control over the day. It's not completely out of control? Because it's technical. This is how it's done. So my suggestion is, if we have a problem of feeling that we haven't done much at the end of the day, the good thing to do is to start in the beginning of the day to do something very profound, good quality japa, good quality worship. So
Bhagavatam in
very good.
still I did.
Then it is
Still I
good.
did not, I'm not doing it.
It's good. Do Bhagavatam
I'm
in the
not
morning.
happy with that.
No, we should never be happy. If your question is that I'm not happy, it's good. I don't need to give you a
I
solution.
don't
Don't-
remember also. I read, when I'm reading, I'm happy. Then I don't remember anything. If anybody asks, I don't know anything.
No, that's because of Mataji, you have to chant as well. I'm sure you're chanting, but as the chanting increases and the chanting becomes more and more refined over a period of time, your memory will increase. Memory is a function. Guru Puja is very important. The Guru Vandana prayers, Guru Puja that we do at 7 o'clock in the morning in most temples is very important. Shri Guru Charana Padma. It takes less than 10 minutes. Get it done at an appropriate time, and you will see that the rest of the day is functioning according to plan. Are we done? Okay, because I want to leave a few things for the next few weeks, yeah? So, Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.